Hey everybody, how's it going? Fred Jones here from Afterschool Guru, and I'm very excited to welcome you today to Afterschool Guru Presents. Today we're going to be having a conversation with Erika Petrelli. Erika is the Senior Vice President of Leadership Development at the Leadership Program, which is located in New York City. Erika is also the author of On Wings Whimsy, which is an interactive leadership journal in which Erika helps readers to find the extraordinary in the ordinary. I love that. I have to also say that Erika was one of my first teachers in after school. She hired me for one of my first jobs working in after school in New York City, and I worked for the leadership program for several years. And in that time, I can honestly say that many of the ways I communicate with staff, the way I manage my leadership style comes from the work that I did at the leadership program. I learned a lot from Erika, and I'm very excited to bring her here today so that you can learn a lot from her as well. So without further ado, I'm going to shut up and let Erika talk. Make sure that you check out On Wings Whimsy. You can get it on Amazon, and also check out the leadership program in New York City. And finally, join the Afterschool Gurus with an S Facebook group so you can learn more about these videos, get some resources, and meet some really cool folks, and join the YouTube channel. That's it. I shut up. Erika Petrelli. I am so excited to have everyone here today who's joining us for the call. When we decided to do this thing about a month or so ago, there were a couple of people who were on my list that I knew I wanted to get onto the call. And so far, my dream team has been coming out and showing up. And today, we're so excited to have a conversation today with Ms. Erika Petrelli. So before I introduce Erika and go into that, I wanted to start off by making sure that you know who my co-host is, who is amazing in her own right, all right? We have Miss Laura Wasson, all right? Laura had worked for the, has a CalSAT trainer for many years. She's also one of the TA coaches for the Expanded Learning School of Leadership and Facilitation, and she's the new at the Expanded Child Care. Did I get that right, Laura?
Extended childcare.
Extended childcare. Extended childcare. She's a new associate director there. So she's a mover and a shaker here in California, but I'm very fortunate to have her as a friend and as a co-host. So Laura, you want to say hello, introduce yourself to everybody on the call?
Yeah, hi everybody. It's good to have you guys here. This is a good time, and Fred gave you the rundown on what I do for work. My life just revolves around the kids and supporting the staff, so I'm happy to have you all here. Thank you.
Yeah, and so Laura, not only will she be helping out with the chat, Laura's also going to be available when we do the Q&A at the end of this conversation, and at the end, she's going to take us through a wonderful oral conversation, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we walk away from this with something that we can actually use. So, now that we've done all those preliminary things, I always say that I know you guys, as much as I would love to think that you're showing up to hear me, I know you're not. I know you're here because you want to hear from Miss Erika Petrelli, so before I bring Erika on, I want to just, in full disclosure, I have to say that I've known Erika for so long. Erika and me go so far back, and I have to tell a story. When I first started, I cut my teeth in after school working at the leadership program in New York City. And for some reason, Erika was brave enough to hire this crazy man who walked into her office one day and said, I wanted to work with kids. And it was a whirlwind experience ever since then. The work that they do in terms of staff development, professional development, everything I've learned about professional development, how to work with staff and leading from a place of empathy and compassion, I really got from Erika Petrelli. I mean, there have been some after-school gurus in my life. Mr. Drake is one of them. A lot of you have heard me do my keynote about Mr. Drake. But Erika Petrelli is definitely one of those people as well. So for me, it's really, really wonderful to be able to share her with you guys, because I know Erika personally, but I also know her professionally. And one of the things that I love about her is just the same way when I put out the call and said, Erika, can you? She was instantly yes, right? Because that seems to be her default on most things, yes, if she can be helpful. So without further ado, I would love to introduce everyone. A big round of applause for Miss Erika Petrelli. Yes, Erika.
Hi, everybody. Thanks.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So Erika, where are you calling in from today?
So I'm calling in from Westfield, Indiana, which is where I live. So that's central Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. Me and my two kids are here, tucked away in my house. You are seeing me in my dining room that I've transformed into a makeshift leadership program office by hanging an old leadership program tablecloth on the wall behind me. That's my virtual real background. And the leadership program, like Fred said, is in New York City, but I'm tucked away in Indiana.
Awesome. And so they're in New York and you're in Indiana. How does that work? How does that work?
Well, you know what? It's so funny because I've had since 2011. I'm born and raised Hoosier, so I'm born and raised Indiana, but I lived in New York City for 11 years. I've worked at the leadership program for 20 years. So in 2011, I moved back to Indiana and managed to convince the company at that time that I could do this job remotely. Essentially that a home base in Indiana was equally effective as a home base in New York City. So in some ways, I've had a little advanced practice at remote connections because I've been doing it between Indiana and New York. So it's a lot of this, Fred. It's a lot of, but the difference is for me, for a long time, it's been me, the face on the screen, and my coworkers all in the same room in the New York City office. So it's a lot of this. And it's a lot of getting the opportunity to travel all around the country to do trainings. So the virtual world has been a world that I've been comfortable in now for a few years before it became a virtual reality for the whole world.
Yeah. So you were easy with this. This was good for you. You were like, oh, I got this. I'm already doing this, right?
Well, except for, I'm not used to having my two children, doing school and me being their teacher throughout the day as well. I was joking that this morning during e-learning, my daughter, who's 11, so she's in 6th grade, she was doing her science homework and she was confused on something. And she was like, Mom, what's the words? And I literally said, honey, I don't even understand any of the words that just came out of your mouth. So I'm not sure how, and I'm sure that me Googling it is cheating. I don't know what to do here in this situation.
Yeah.
So trying to be a 3rd grade and a 6th grade teacher, that's different as well.
Good. All right, you let me know when you want me to share the slides.
Sure. Why don't we start the slides? I had put together a couple slides just to guide the conversation.
Okay.
Today we are talking about extending empathy virtually. Mainly because this is something that I'm very, very curious about right now. As we're in a virtual reality world that we're now several weeks into, so now we're sort of settling into the reality that this is the reality. So virtual reality is our reality for now. What does empathy look like? Empathy and connection. What does that look like virtually? And where are we finding it easier, and where might we be finding it more challenging? So I genuinely look forward to conversations about this, as opposed to me saying, oh, I know the answers to it, because I don't. I have observations and wonderings. I'm curious about this topic, and so I want to share my curiosities, my observations and wonderings with you and hear what you have to say too. So all of there on that first slide there, I just wanted to put all my contact information on, so that I always love a chat after a chat, so you can feel free to contact me at any time. So Fred, you can, the second slide if you want to.
Can you see it?
Anyone that's, yeah, I can see it. Can you guys see it? It says tending to us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing nodding, good. If you've been in a training with me, so I know Tyler from Missouri has been in trainings with me, so he's heard me say this probably 14,000 times, because basically since 2014, when I first read this particular article, I've quoted it in probably every single meeting and training that I've ever done, because in some ways, it truly changed the way I interact with all of humanity. So I thought now might be a good time to share it with you if you haven't stumbled upon it yet, and just it's a very simple shift in perspective in a simple greeting. So here's the deal. The premise is the way we say, how are you? Or the way we connect with each other. And this came from an article from the wonderful resource On Being. It's on their website. This is an article from 2014 called The Dis-Ease of Being Busy. So I put the what do you call it? The website page there so that you could look for it. You could just Google The Dis-Ease of Being Busy and it'll pop up. The author in it was talking at that time about how we've become so busy as a culture, as a society. I don't think I hyperlinked it because I'm not that smart, Fred. That would have been a smart thing to do.
I'll figure out a way to get it to folks.
Okay, yeah, that would have been a smart thing. But his premise is that we become so busy as a society that we've lost human connection in that busyness. Now remember, this was written in 2014. So it takes a new shape given our current reality. But his premise has never been more true. because he, in talking about how busy we've become as a society, he's talking about how we're also passing that down to our children and our young people. So we're scheduling them from the time they wake up till the end, till the time they fall asleep, and that we're just, that busyness is a really a kind of a status symbol. If you're not busy, then you're maybe not doing something right in your life, are you? You know? And so he uses the point of human connection. Hi, how are you? And how we don't even care about the answer. We really don't. In real life, we say, hi, how are you? Because that's an obligation greeting. And we very rarely even stop for the answer. And, or if you're like me, you give the answer, which is, I'm fine. And if you're like me, fine means thank you, don't talk to me. I'm not going to share with you how I am. Keep it moving. I'm fine. Let's move on. And so in the article, he shares that in some Arabic and Persian translations of the greeting, how are you? The literal translation is, how is the state of your heart today? And the sort of argument that he gives is that that's what we truly want to be asking. So I just put part of the blurb. I'm going to actually read it out loud because for me, it just really, it resonates with me when I sink in thinking about it for a minute. So he says, when you're saying, how are you? In reality, we ask, how is your heart doing at this very moment, at this breath? When I ask, how are you? That is really what I want to know. I'm not asking how many items are on your to-do list, nor asking how many items are in your inbox. I want to know how your heart is doing at this very moment. Tell me. Tell me your heart is joyous. Tell me your heart is aching. Tell me your heart is sad. Tell me your heart craves a human touch. Examine your own heart, explore your soul, and then tell me something about your heart and your soul. So since I read that article, the reason I talk about it, because in my corner of after school and youth development and the world, it's leadership development. So I'm always talking about leadership and what does leadership mean. And for me, this is kind of the heart of the matter, is how do we connect as humans? Yeah. And so if we can take that simple hello, and not to say that with every interaction I say, hey, Fred, how's the state of your heart today? Although maybe I should, but even a step before that, if in my, hey, Fred, how's it going? In my heart, I'm asking, I wonder how Fred's heart is today. The way I ask you, my curiosity is what changes in me and in you if I'm asking you with that intention in mind. So for empathy, in a conversation about empathy virtually, in this this time that we're in, where we're all collectively experiencing something that is life-changing on as many different levels as our people in the room, our hearts are experiencing something. And the state of my heart right now in this hour is probably different than the state my heart was an hour ago, and maybe when I woke up this morning, and maybe when I watched the news this evening. So the state of my heart might be actually changing even more rapidly than it normally would. And so an empathic way to connect is to genuinely want to know what's the state of each other's heart.
Oh, Erika, I have to tell you that really touches me and moves me a lot, because I think a lot of times when we hear the word empathy, we think there's just one type of empathy. But what you're really talking about is this idea of compassion and empathy, right? Where it's not just about, I hear you, but I hear you and I really want to know, right? I really want to know. And I think in the spirit of that, yes, Troy, please. You're muted, brother.
First and foremost, let Laura in.
Let Laura in.
How did Laura get out?
Let Laura in. Let Laura in.
Thank you for letting me know. See, it's this new Zoom rule now where you gotta let people in like they're letting them in your house. I don't know how to do it. That's why I have somebody helping.
Fred, she's knocking at your door. She's
right?
like, I see you through the window.
So,
I know you're home.
So I'm here, Fred.
I thought you had some deep insight on what Erika just said.
No. I did have something to say. I wanted to say that I really, really do appreciate this. As a person who thrives on connection, I sometimes feel as if my how are yous genuinely are coming from a place of, I genuinely want to know what's going on for you.
Yeah.
I encounter a lot of people in life that really would just prefer to do the latter, to give you the surface of I'm doing okay, I'm fine, or I'm not really doing okay, or I'm having a bad day, but I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. So we, I think that when I reference this and hear about this, I am instantly taken back to Ashanti Branch and his teachings around wearing the mask, the man who wears the mask. So just kind of think about, even if someone shows up, or you are the person who shows up really genuinely wanting to know about how someone's heart is, they may not necessarily be able to, or be in a place to receive that.
Yeah.
That was kind of what surfaced for me. So.
Fred, I know you wanted to say something, but if I can jump in.
No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, because Troy, thank you so much for saying that, because I think that's a really important thing for us to remember from empathic connection. It's not about the response that we receive in return. It's the way we show up. So all I can do is offer you an open heart myself, which is an invitation for you to share yours with me. It's always an invitation, never an obligation, right? And so that if you are not in a place for whatever reason to say anything more than fine, then that is not for me to judge or anything. My job is to hold space for your heart if you'd like it to. Want to point out kind of the equally important side of how's the state of your heart, which is paying attention to the state of your own heart as much as you're tending to the state of each other's hearts. Because I feel like notoriously in this industry, we're in a service industry in service of youth, that we are notorious for tending to ourselves least and last. And virtually, I think, because we're all scrambling to new daily routines and schedules and situations that none of us are accustomed to. If you're anything like me, that is getting worse than even usual in terms of, I don't have time to pay attention to my heart. I need to pay attention to my work, all the people I'm virtually meeting with, my kids, this, that, and the other thing. Oh, at the end of the day, maybe how is my heart today? So making sure that you're tending to your heart, and also remembering that, like with everything, the more we practice that outward, it makes us more aware inward. So if I'm really actively paying attention to that question when I'm thinking about the hearts of others, it automatically makes me more aware of my own. So that was the last thing I wanted to say on that. Okay, I think we can move to the next slide. Let's see what's next. Okay, so I was thinking about a few of the pitfalls that I've either heard people talking about, or I've experienced myself, or just, like I said, observations and wonderings, right? Because this is really fascinating, that this empathy and compassion seems to be something that's more naturally kind of rising up. So I was thinking of it as like humanity is rising here, because we're all fumbling through this together, that there is, I've noticed more empathic responses from just about anyone, because it is a global experience. So I thought I was so clever, because I thought of this phrase completely on my own, the human economy, but of course lots of smart people already thought of it. It's a thing, not something that I made up, but I thought of it as this idea of we went from, people have been talking about like the industrial economy, and then we had been moving into the gig economy, where less and less people are necessarily doing the 9 to 5, but they're showcasing their specific trade or skills. And now there's sort of a human economy, in the sense that you see everywhere humans connecting with other humans and trying to figure out a way to help each other. And it's beautiful and it's amazing. So I just want to make sure that I say that the sort of empathy and connection that's just emerging naturally out of this crisis is awe-inspiring and humbling. And I really, truly hope that it continues when we're on the other side of this. I hope that's something that is just, the seeds are planted here and they just grow after. So that is beautiful. And then there's these things that are happening. So here's the ones that I've seen the most of or experienced myself, and I wonder what you guys think about it. So the first is what I'm calling comparison compassion, which is the thing that happens when you feel compelled to be compassionate because others are being compassionate. So it's the same way, like if on Facebook or social media, you see somebody wish somebody a happy birthday, and then you wish that person a happy birthday publicly, you feel like you need to have done that. Oh, somebody's got a cute dog barking. So there's this thing that happens of like, oh, there's so many wonderful ways to be compassionate right now. Sidewalk chalk on the sidewalks, or things on your doors, or things on your window. And there's so many initiatives to get involved in. Every day you see dozens and dozens of ways to show compassion publicly. And what can happen if we're not careful is that same sort of, everyone else is doing this publicly, so I need to show that I'm a compassionate person publicly by joining this thing or that thing, or doing this thing or that thing. And that can have the opposite of the intended effect on us, because we're doing that compassionate thing because we somehow feel that we would be compared or judged if we don't. So that's just one of those, wow, we need to be careful of what are the reasons we're joining this thing or that thing, and that the compassion comparison doesn't turn into a fatigue of sorts, if that makes sense. Which leads into the you're not doing it right syndrome, which is a human syndrome that we all have, of just kind of making judgments on other people's experiences. You're not grieving the right way. You're not being careful enough. You're not entertaining your kids well. You're not coming up with crafts that you should be. You're not eating healthily enough. Whatever it is it's really easy to start to, so the comparison of how other people are doing this is a dangerous and slippery slope that takes us well away from empathy and compassion.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but that
please.
Because when we look at what's going on right now, because I don't know about everybody else, the whole thing with the mask, and when you see people who don't have masks, and you know, you see the healthcare workers who are working, I get very incensed about that. But then I also realize, where is that coming from though, right? Because I don't know this person's story. You know, some people are out, maybe they don't have a mask because they couldn't afford a mask. And I think that I'm glad you're saying that, because I had to check myself about that a couple of times now, where I've been like a judgment on a person, and then I had to stop saying, but I don't know their story. I don't know why they're out here without a mask or whatever. So I'm so glad you said that. I think that's so important.
Well, and because it's a human default. We can't help ourselves to compare, you know, based on, I have beliefs about how I should be doing this. And so if somebody else is kind of stepping outside of my beliefs, we have to be intentional with that same kind of open heart of, I don't know anything about their circumstances. It's like Brene Brown talks about in one of her books, I think Daring Greatly, but talks about this idea that we should, what changes if we work under the assumption that everybody is doing the best that they can? How does that change our response to people? And so you're not doing it right now, I think has a potential to really flare up because we're afraid. And so that's natural. And I think we need to, if we want to maximize our empathy and compassion, we need to check our you're not doing it right syndrome. So most of us in the industry have heard about compassion fatigue when we talk about social workers and psychologists, and this idea of people that are constantly carrying the weight of other people's trauma. Compassion fatigue is something that needs to be tended to. And what I'm wondering about right now is the connection fatigue that might be happening because we're all virtually connecting. So I'm wondering if you are doing this, because here's what's happening to me is that because we're all virtual, I have 400,000 meetings a day, and they stack up one on top of the other because we're all home. So we all know where we each other are. And so suddenly the boundaries of work and home aren't there anymore. So meetings are slipping earlier in the day and going later into the night. And I feel that same, again, that compassion is similar here. I feel the obligation to make sure I am available for you. And so, and then I'm spent, right? And then suddenly I don't have anything left. So connection fatigue is something that I think can happen to us if we're not careful. So Fred, the mindfulness moment to start us off, that's a great thing. Scheduling, making sure this sounds so stupid. Make sure you don't schedule your meetings back to back. I'm doing that. I forget to bring, a break moment in to stand up and refresh my tea. So connection fatigue is something that I think then makes us less able to be empathetic and compassionate. I can only see me, so please, if anyone wants to jump in, do it anytime.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Virtual favoritism. this is a question. I really want to hear from the group what they think about this. So I'm calling it virtual favoritism because I'm curious about what is happening to you in terms of where your compassion is directed. So some of us have people that are in the house with us that we're quarantined in. Some of us are in our houses alone. Some of us, so there's different scenarios, but I'm curious about your, like where your compassion and empathy are being directed, kind of on balance between the people and animals that are in the house that you're currently kind of contained with versus the people that you're connecting with online. And if one gets kind of more favoritism than the other, where more of your attention is going. Are you tending more to the child that's in the house with you, or the boss that's on the computer with you, or the friend that you've suddenly developed this Zoom relationship with, or where's the compassion going, and is it balanced? Because I think we can get ourselves off kilter here if we're not careful.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from some of the participants. So what are you guys doing? Where's your favoritism pointed? Which directions? And you can just unmute yourself in the corner to speak.
I think for me, right now, it tends to be more towards work. Like keeping those work hours when normally you would be at work and not at home. But definitely feeling that virtual guilt of being at work while, are on a call. Like right now, my kiddos are sleeping. It's nap time. But, if they were up, like seeing them play in the playroom and not having that interaction with them. So really finding that, balance of, spending time with the actual people, the actual humans that are in the house compared to work, which is currently paying the bills. So,
Right.
And then like my wife, she has directed hours that she has to be on. So it's even harder for her because she has, like an 8 to 3 that she has to be on and virtually teaching. So it's definitely a struggle there.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Sound like I heard somebody unmuting. Anyone else? Okay.
I appreciate Tyler mentioned virtual guilt, and I think that is a part of what plays into this. What I call virtual favoritism is that we want to be a part of the solution right now. We want to be fully present for our employer. We want to be contributing to our field. We want to be here. And so the virtual demand for our presence is strong, and it's relentless, and it will be relentless if we also don't check our own balance there and decide the boundaries as much as we can of when we're turning our compassion and attention to ourselves, to our friends, to our family members, whatever, to our pets, walking our dog, whatever that might be. It's, again, I feel like with all of these are opportunities for us to just check ourselves so that we don't find ourselves at the end of a day being like, I don't even know what happened today. I just got swept into the computer at 7 a.m. and then I fell out of it into bed at 11 p.m. And I have no idea what happened in between. And the last one, the many faces of fear, is for me the reminder that, we talk a lot in our field, especially about our young people and acting out behaviors, and how there's so much usually behind those acting out behaviors. And oftentimes they're steeped in some kind of human need that's not being met. And a lot of behaviors that stem from a fear of something, and that for adults, that's no different. And right now, how all of us are experiencing this pandemic, some of our behaviors might be altered in a way that even we can't explain or articulate for ourselves, and we wouldn't name it as fear. But I'm wondering if we can show empathy and compassion when any person that we're interacting with might be showing up with an attitude that's different, an energy that's different. They're either more productive or less productive, or whatever those things are. They might be showing up as behaviors that are off the norm, but they might be deeply rooted in something that's just has us unsettled because of what's going on, that we're much too early in it to be able to name for ourselves.
I think that's really an important key point also, because now that we're working all virtually, a lot of us are supporting staff members from afar. And so Zoom is great, but there's nothing like being in the room with somebody. There's nothing like having a one-to-one with somebody where you can see their face and you can feel that emotion and you can feel what they're going through. And I'm already starting to see challenges where folks are misconstruing things or not understanding the intent behind things because it's all virtual. And so they walk away feeling like these people don't understand me, or this person's not doing this, but not understanding that they're going through something also. And we're not in a place right now to unpack a lot of things right now. And I love what you said about Brene Brown, like just assuming the best, that they're doing the best they can right now. I think is so important. And it's also, it gives you a break to kind of let go and say, I don't have to control everything. They're doing the best they can, and let's move on. So I appreciate that, Erika. I think that's so crucial. So crucial.
Hey, thank you. Because the truth is here is that we're all learning this together because we're all experiencing it together. So we may have some version of expertise or experience in different aspects of this, but none of us have experienced this precise thing. So all of us are learning as we go, and because it changes every day and each of our individual experiences of it are going to be different, just the idea of empathy and compassion, tending to my own heart, believing that you're showing up in the best way that you can and honoring your heart are truly the best things that we can do with every day. Yes, Fred, you can go ahead and jump to the next one because I know our time is getting short.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. This is just to drive the point home. This is a quote that I love when talking about empathy. I started using it when talking about leadership from an SEL perspective. For leaders to think about, how am I leading from a social and emotional point of view, as opposed to a kind of a traditional hierarchical point of view. So this Douglas Conant is a former CEO of Campbell's Soup, and he since has a leadership training deal. And this quote, even a brief interaction can change the way people think about themselves, their leaders, and the future. Each of those many connections you make has the potential to become a high point or a low point in someone's day. Again, even before this, that was one of those things that the first time I read it, stuck with me forever, because it reminds us that it's not always, it is the big ones, but it's not always the big conversations or the big moments that pack the most powerful punch. Sometimes it's a casual aside, it's a quick comment, or it's a brush off, something that we don't even think twice about, that has an impact certainly on somebody's entire day, if not the way they view themselves or their role in your organization forever. So that literally that passing of a person in that brief exchange that happens just in the crossing paths with a person, that moment could be the high point or the low point in their day. So going back to the first thing about how is the state of your heart today, I wanted to, as another example for people just to ponder for themselves, and it has to do here too, if you can think about, has there ever been a time when somebody has just said, how are you? And tears have sprung to your eyes and you don't have any idea why? That usually for me are moments when that's a person that's asking me the how are you with that, how is the state of my heart in their heart? And I can tell the difference. You can tell the difference. And so whether I answer or not, it doesn't matter, but so that I know that every time that I have the opportunity to connect with you, and this is equally true virtually, every time I have the chance to look at you in your eyes across the computer screen or hear your voice on the phone, I am influencing your day. And so it's up to me whether I influence that for good or for bad. So the challenge, which you can do later, but this is the challenge that I think is really a good one. And sometimes you're like, I am awesome. This list just confirms it. And sometimes it's like, oh, I've got some work to do, which is just run through a regular day in your life. And right now, it doesn't have to be a regular day when life was the way it was just 2 months ago, but a regular day in your life, all the many different people that you interact with, both virtually and in real life. And how? Are you talking to them on the phone? Are you tucking them into bed? Are you having meetings with them? What are the ways that you interact with those people? And then just really thinking through how those interactions go. Because I can certainly, even in my head, I can think about the interactions that are empathic and the interactions that I'm, for one reason or another, not offering my heart to those interactions. And those interactions are different. And maybe I'm making things more difficult than they need to be.
Right.
So your challenge when thinking about that quote is go through your list and would you change anything in the interactions, knowing that you have the power to change for good, on balance, for good or for bad, that person's day, every person's day that you come across.
Wow.
Any thoughts on that one?
I love that. You have the power. I love that. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we'll go to the last one.
This is congratulations, you have a secret admirer. Just kidding, it's totally me. It's not a secret, I am your admirer. Lesson of empathy during this time is that it kind of strips away all of the BS, right? It kind of strips away, well, it has the opportunity, there's an invitation to strip away the BS, let me put it that way, and to really connect heart to heart and share our true hearts with each other. So, you know, who have you been a secret admirer of? That might be a time to just go ahead and tell them. And so that's my just invitation to you to share your heart with a person, and I admire you all, and there's my email address again. So that was it for me, friend.
Thank you so much. Everyone give Erika a round of applause. I feel so much, I mean, man, so much good stuff. And I love the challenge that you put for us to track your interactions, but even more so, your secret admirer. You know, it's like my grandmother always used to say, never enter a space and always leave a space better off than it was when you first came in, right? And I think emotionally we want to do that. I want to be a person who uplifts people instead of breaks them down. And that's something that really I've seen, and Erika talks this stuff, but she walks the walk too. And I can say that sincerely from someone who worked for her. I've been ruined from working for Erika Petrelli. For all my bosses, I always gauge them against Erika. And I go, well, Erika would never have done that, so I'm not putting up with it with you. So I mean, it's like, so I mean, it is a sincere thing. And again, I just want to say, Erika, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this wisdom and this knowledge with us. So we have about 5 more minutes, but I'm going to stretch it out to like 8 minutes because Laura said that she's going to do a quick wrap up for all of us. Because I think that now that we've had this wonderful piece of information, we want to process it, right? And we want to make sure that we're all walking away with something that we can use. So Laura, you ready to go?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go around. I have a particular order of you guys on my screen, so I'll just go that way. But if you can just share out a word or a phrase that stood out to you about Erika's, about what she was talking about, that would be fabulous. Tyler, you're up first, and please remember to unmute yourself.
So my word would be connection, and how important connection is on a day-to-day basis and connecting with everybody around you.
Great, thank you. Sherry, if you want to type in the chat box for us so we can see your word, that would be great.
And I'll look for it.
Okay, great, thank you. How am I showing up?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Sherry. Daria, you're on, oh, yep, you're on mute. Thank you.
Does it need to be one word?
No, no.
I came in kind of a little bit late, but what really struck me was you're not doing it right syndrome. That is a really good thing for me to reflect on. So thank you for that.
Great. Carla?
Understanding would be my word, and just being open to understand others when I ask them how they're doing and actually intentionally connect with someone, because I really appreciated the way Erika said that it could really mean something to somebody by just asking that simple question. And I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Great. Luz?
What I got out of this is, you know, sometimes we are, you know, we pass each other and we just say, hey, hi, how's it going? And we don't really stop to really hear the answer that they give us. And that is kind of sad. That's what I'm realizing, is that are we really asking how they feel, or we're just to hear words? You know what I mean?
Okay, let's see, my gallery. Oh, Troy.
Did I mess up your gallery?
It's okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna say
Guys, I told you guys we're building this plane as we're flying in here, so sorry about that. Go ahead.
exactly. I'm gonna say the quote. Erika, I appreciated all of the things that you had to share, but the quote about the brief interactions. You know, I sometimes, you know, I think forget or the impact that you can have on people in just a small moment, and the importance of that small moment to people. So and that was the piece that kind of stood out to me. So thank you.
Lupe? I know, oh, there she is. Lupe, remember to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, it's gonna be like to give it to the people right now, like checking them, how you can helping them. It's a really special moment to show them how they're important they are for you. Even if you don't see them, you can talk to them. I think this is the most, it's just like checking connection. Even when you have your kids here, just kissing them before they go to the bed and say, I love you so much, no matter what. And tomorrow is another day. Kind of like that, you know, start over.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lupe. Fred.
For me, it was the comparison compassion. I mean, that whole idea of forgiveness, like really being open to, you know, I'm going to be open, and I'm not going to compare one person's trauma or one person's whatever with anything else. So that's going to be my big takeaway. Absolutely.
And Erika?
I just, every time, I mean, I talk about this and then I experience it, right? So just how connected it can feel, even when you're not in the same room, you're across the country, just allowing space for smiles and eye contact and laughter across the waves really changes. It changes my heart rate. It changes my physical state of being. So just remembering for me that is possible to have that kind of deep connection, even from a screen.
Mine was your phrasing of always an invitation, but not an obligation for people to share. If somebody says, I'm fine, just keep that space open for them, but it's okay for them to just say, I'm fine, and not want to share. And it's okay for somebody to open up and share as much as they need to share. So just to be mindful of time, we're going to just go into the last question that I have, which is, what are we going to commit to moving forward? You know, we've heard a lot of talk about empathy, about, you know, how we're showing up to the space, and making space for other people, making space for ourselves as well, taking time for ourselves. I think that's important to remember as well. And not everybody has to share if you don't want to share, but if you want to share what you're going to commit to moving forward, that would be lovely. And just unmute yourself for us, please. Anybody want to share?
Let's see. I would like to commit to reaching out directly more with my people. It doesn't matter if it's my coworkers or a friend that I haven't seen. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to use the tools that we have in front of us to make the effort to connect with each other outside of our normal day-to-day. So I'm going to set up some Zoom meetings with my personal friends, or, you know, just be more connected to people through this time.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. Thank you.
I want to assume that people are doing the best they can, you know, and everybody's going to process what we're going through differently. So I think that's really important for me to understand. They're doing their best. Yeah.
Thank you. Sherry wrote in the chat box, I'm not the best at self-care. I want to commit myself to check in and strive to be my best version. Thank you. Troy, yes, I will share the information. Thanks for showing up, Troy. We love you all. And I will share the happy hour information with you guys as well. So let me just put that in there. Does anybody else want to share what they're going to commit to?
I think I'm going to commit to saying no to a few webinars and things and just working with the people that are in my house.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's sometimes, I'm sure, like I've learned in our world, that a lot of us are just yes people. And so it's so easy to say, yes, I'll be on that call. Yes, I'll be on that call. So being able to say no, that's pretty powerful right now, I would say, you know. Anybody else?
Well, I'm going to commit to really, really being open to the fact of really being aware of how I impact others. You know, I tried to live my life that way anyway, but I mean, it really did bring it home. Like, we have a choice how we can be a bringer of light, right? Or a person who brings, you know, and I'm just going to choose even more so to try to be a bringer of light. And it's so easy to get on Facebook and you see these things go out and you just want to, you know, and I just, there's enough of that. There's enough of that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to be a bringer of light. So thank you, Erika, for really motivating me to do that. So yeah, that's me.
And I would say I'm with Daria, and Daria and I actually, just so you guys, Daria is my office manager in our lovely office, and Daria and I were talking the other night, or I don't know when it was, but I always try to remember to assume good intent, and right now I'm kind of being pushed a little bit, but I'm trying really hard to continue to assume good intent, because people are under different stressors that they weren't under a month ago. So, and being mindful of that. Yeah.
Okay. I'd also like to say that, you know, one of my whole main goal of doing this was to bring East Coast and West Coast. I worked in New York City for many years before I came to California. Wonderful teams on both sides. So with these series of web series, we're going to be bringing folks from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so we want you guys to share information, get to know each other. And so you can get some of that loving from the East Coast and you can get some of that loving from the West Coast, and we can just all love each other. All right. So Erika Petrelli, any last words for these lovely folks who showed up for this today?
No, just thank you so much. Your hearts. Thanks for sharing your hearts and your time with me. I really appreciate it. I loved being here with you today.
And Tyler said, don't forget us in the middle of the country. Tyler, we will not forget you, my brother.
Everyone always forgets the Midwest. You guys are like, what's between New York and LA? Something.
So
I think there's some cornfields in there.
I love the Midwest. The Midwest is awesome. And Tyler, thank you so much for showing up with your Power Rangers background. So we've already taken a little bit more time than we wanted to, but I thank all of you guys for showing up and staying all the way to the end. As always, I always like to end these calls by saying, I know that I just want to be the person, if no one else has told you how much your work is appreciated, let me be the one, because I know that you go to work, you show up, you support these kids, you never get enough money. None of us do for the work that you do. You never get enough recognition, you know, from schools and from parents and whatever. So if no one has told you what a wonderful, powerful force for good you folks are, let me tell you, give yourselves a pat on the back. You're doing a great job. I appreciate it. The kids appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And thank you so much for showing up. I promise this will be up on YouTube soon so you can go back and look at it. But don't worry, I probably don't put the faces of everybody. It's just probably going to be mostly Erika, because now everybody's going, oh my God, I don't want to be on YouTube. Don't worry about it. We only do the part where it's just Erika, so we can get all that knowledge. All this is private stuff we'll share for just us, okay? So you guys take care. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you again. Give her a big round of applause for Laura.
Yay.
Thank you, Erika.
And thank you, Erika. And you guys take care. Have a wonderful week, okay?
Bye.
Bye.